are joined now by Tim Verghese from inside Nebraska. Tim, how are you this morning?
Hey, not too bad. How about y'all?
Good, 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 good. How little drinking through a fire hose yesterday, or were you particular about what you wanted to do with your time?
Something of drinking with the Ottawa Firehose, but I thought the way they structured it of just having the defense out there first and the offense out there after with some special teams worked in, kind of helped make it easy. There was like, it kind of was a thing where you ended it and I was like, oh, wait, I didn't get eyes on this guy or this guy. Like Isaiah Hunter was someone I was looking forward to getting eyes on, and then I just didn't really see him. But in retrospect, going back and looking through clips, I was like, oh, that was an Isaiah, that was an Isaiah. So just pointing out and finding him. But it's like little things like that. Like again, I'm excited to get back out there now that we've seen like gotten our first look.
Tim, I wonder when you've got such a limited time like that, how much do you feel like you're actually able to take away, or is it mostly this guy looks like he's in good shape, or looks like this guy put some weight on? Like, what are you looking for when your time is that abbreviated?
Yeah, I mean, you really just like the first thing is just off the hoof evaluations. I mean, it's the same thing I do at camps. It's the camps start with drills, typically warm up drills. You're walking guy, pregame. That it's the same thing I do in pregame before games. Is you see guys going through drills. You want to see how all of them look going through those drills. You see which ones look smooth, which ones don't, which ones are moving. Like game speed, which ones are not. Things like that. So for me, watching the D line. Just again off the hoof, how much bigger does Keona Davis look? How does Riley Van Poppel look? How are these guys look? Williams and Renari, these guys looking at the O line, just trying to see how they're working through things, who's standing out, and then I mean wide receiver DB one on ones. I mean that's a sell in itself. Just getting to watch those guys compete, and so it was entertaining. It was a good time. Running backs, you kind of just looking for how they're moving size wise. So yeah, the first thing is the off the hoof kind of evaluation. That's the main thing is I'm looking for physical gains or anyone that's kind of, oh, that's different. That's kind of, you're just looking for differences essentially first and foremost.
Easy to start with O line and D line, isn't it? And I always I couch that by saying I understand people sometimes when they talk about how people look, you get the side eye or the eye roll, and it's like, oh, But I've told myself over the years, like I got to stop talking to those people, right? Because if they were out of shape, that would be as telling as well. So
I was, I don't. It has to matter both ways.
but I do think offensive and defensive lines, they've made a tremendous amount of strides with what they've done with people's bodies, especially on the O line.
Oh yeah, like I mean that line looks like the best compliment I can give the offensive line is we've all seen the measurables for Elijah Pritchett. Elijah Pritchett is a massive human being, and it's not like he's like towering over anybody in that room or completely just like it's not like whoa, there's Elijah Pritchett and then the rest of the room. It's oh that's the line, and then oh look, there's Elijah Pritchett. Like for sure has a couple inches on a couple other guys. Definitely looks a little bigger than those guys, but it's not like whoa, like like sometimes Caden Proctor at times looks completely bigger than guys, elsewhere. Like it's not like that. It's they all kind of look big right now, and especially when you put those two next to each other, him and Rocco, and those guys are walking around. Yeah, it's a lot of mass in that room right now.
Tim, one of the guys you mentioned earlier that I saw a lot of people talk about over on Twitter over the course of the day yesterday was Keona Davis. Obviously, that's a particular, I don't know, pet project, I guess, of mine that I'm very interested in. How did you think he looked compared to where we saw him last?
He's definitely bulked up. I think upper body, lower body looked like he's added some mass. I mean, you saw it last year, specifically his upper body, in his arms. He looked a little like like on the slimmer side. There was definitely some room to fill into. He's filled into that frame, and I think there's still some room to continue growing. Yeah, him and Williams and Renari kind of look like not clones. I don't think that's the best way to put it, but like just two like 6'6" plus defensive ends, both standing right around I think 270 right now. Yeah, they're physically impressive.
When you're kind of watching um, just the format, the tempo, the pace, getting in and out of stations or transitions or teachings. I get it. It's a short amount of time. Is it about what you expected with new staff? Different than what you expected, or just kind of still couldn't really tell enough?
To an extent, couldn't really tell enough. I mean, like the guys that the new coaches that caught my attention. I mean, it was hard to miss Coach Braden. Like his voice. I mean, you can hear it across all the video. You can just hear him in the background yelling. Like he's going to get on these guys, and it was entertaining to kind of watch him coach up the guys. I thought Eckler again. There was like one special teams group kind of working in, or one special team station kind of working in, and you could still hear Eckler over like most anybody out there too. So he's bringing the energy. And then something that caught my attention, they had the DBs and wide receivers working one on ones. They had a bunch of the young DBs like Tanner Turch, Caden Vermoss, Bryson Weber, DeAndre Barnes, a bunch of those young guys working kind of on their own. And Phil Snow's like right there, like drilling into those guys. Like every single rep, he's watching closely, then pulling the guy to the side, talking to him. Phil Snow's taking a very hands-on approach to the young DBs right now.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that? That's a heck of a point. Because of what I think, I think Coach Rule has this obviously a huge affinity for Coach Snow. I think he feels like he's the best, or if not one of the best, defensive back coaches in the country. What a luxury it would be to have him working with kind of your developmental guys. Because I mean, you could get up one morning and blink, and they could run those guys down just because he's so good at what he does from a technical standpoint.
Yeah, and those guys are physically talented. I mean, the Tanner Church, Caden Vermont, Weber specifically, those three I think are going to play at some point in their careers. Like I'm pretty bullish on Caden Vermont. We've talked about that plenty. But even like Bryson Weber, getting to see him out there, like he's one of the bigger corners in the room, a true corner. Can turn and run, like has some track times to verify the athleticism. Yeah, I think those two guys in particular, and Church is still figuring it out. He's kind of converted to DB as a senior and still figuring out that position, but again, no better person to learn from than Phil Snow.
Tim, as were there, you mentioned the DB wide receiver one-on-ones, and we got some defensive back talk in there. Anything catch your eye with the receivers, whether body-wise, who was working in that group? Like, what did you notice there?
Yeah, I mean, it was a talk yesterday. Me and Steve, I think, mentioned him a punch, but Isaiah Mosey kept just grabbing our attention. Like he winning off the line of scrimmage, pretty sharp routes, pretty consistent hands. There were some drops yesterday, and he was one of those that wasn't really dropping it. And yeah, I mean, really like Mosey. I think he's further along than even I expected, and I've been pretty high on him. Just came in and works. I mean, he's a coach's son. Like he knows what he's doing out there. Like he knows what's expected of him. He just works. Cortez Mills, I thought he had a good battle with Andrew Marshall. I think the DB room, I'll say this, the new additions to the DB room and just the experience the rest of that room has gotten over the last year, I think it's going to like ultimately be best for both sides that they're getting to compete against each other. Like Cortez is getting to go up against like a guy like Andrew Marshall, and he brought the ball in like through, and Marshall just pokes it out at the end. That's something you don't deal with at the high school level. You don't really see high school DBs do that. So that's something that he's going to have to learn and adjust to. I thought you could see some flashes from Hartley Gilmore, just the athleticism. I didn't think it was his best day, but again, limited reps, limited, kind of viewing of him. Quinn Clark just continues to like look the part, and so I'm excited to see kind of what he continues to develop into.
He's bigger than he was a year ago, and he still looks pretty slight, but it's
yeah. He's fascinating. I'm really interested to see kind of what that looks like down the line, because I think that's another one of just like I think the coaching staff just kind of like bide your time. Like there'll be an opportunity at some point, but we're just going to keep developing you. But yeah, I mean that's the room right now. Again, Dane Key, is Dane Key and Isaiah. Like I said, kind of missed Isaiah Hunter yesterday, but it was good to get a look at that room. And then like I don't know. I mean, I've seen some talk about Ja'Cory Barney being like, hey, Ja'Cory Barney might have slipped compared to some of the new additions or whatever. Like he's the guy. Like he is acting like the guy and playing like the guy and carrying himself like the guy.
Well, you know what I hope is it was because it's just eye opening, right? To all of a sudden see Caleb and Harburg in one-on-ones, right? It's like 4 years difference between the two. I think what's listening to you say that, I think the next level for whether it's the DBs or the wide receivers, it's got to be, in your Barney comments got me thinking along these lines, is to flush last year. Where last year was last year, regardless of, and I said this from the jump, right? With the new staff, I'm like, hey, you get a new set of eyes. Don't rest on your laurels, whether it was to the good or to the bad. Like Like this is a new deal. I think how quickly they can do that will dictate a lot of what's going to happen from a success standpoint. Is to flush last year, regardless.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the talk too. You listen to them talk about like you listen to Buford talk about, hey, what's different with the defense? It's like, oh, the old stuff's out the window. Like, yeah, there's no like resting on what happened last year. There's also no like, yeah, it's a new staff, it's a new defense, it's a new offense. Like they'll talk about the continuity and keeping some of the language and certain concepts in, but it's going to be a lot of change, I think, on both sides of the ball as both coordinators kind of get settled in and shape this thing into what they want it to look like. Yeah, I also kind of wonder with the DBs specifically, you know, what is going to be different when you've got, this is a DB focused defense now. You've got three, like you mentioned, Phil Snow, DB guy. You've got John Butler, DB guy. And then you've got Addison Williams all working on that room. Like I think from a technique and what they're working through standpoint, I think you're going to see that room just completely change because last year at times was unacceptable. And so I think there's going to be a lot of work to be done in that room.
Tim, did you have enough time or see enough to get a sense for the kind of overall level of, I guess, competitiveness over the different groups?
A little bit. Like, I mean, again, wide receivers, DBs right now, it's just ultra competitive. Those guys are like, it's pretty feisty. Like that's what we got to see. Outside of that, not really. I think it's all still coming together. And part of yesterday, I saw some YouTube comments and Twitter comments about it too. Part of yesterday, I think what that I couldn't get a full grasp on is compared to last year, there was a lot more standing around, and people noticed that. Like, hey, there's guys standing behind in drills. I mean, they're not doing what they did last year, where you've got three separate teams on three different fields, all rotating through different things. It's okay. The DBs are here, the wide receivers are here, the linebackers here. It's teaching, and so like I understand some of the like they're standing around. Like it's week one of spring ball. Like they're learning. They're still it's still like teaching moments and all of that. So, but at the same time, it's hard to get a read on really a whole lot because it is that first week of spring ball, and some of these rooms are going to look completely different 3 weeks from now.
I'm pretty. I think for me, the most exciting part is the whole teaching aspect of it. And it's not just coach to player. I think it's coach to coach too. Like Coach Rule seems to kind of be in his wheelhouse, teaching and instructing and implementing with other adults. Like how to, it's not necessarily how to be a pro, but hey, this is our culture. This is how when we teach in the words we use, this is why it matters. Let's do this more as a staff. Because if you look at the teams and like they're competitive, that's a pretty. I was impressed with their chemistry and their camaraderie, right? They cheered for one another. It was highly competitive, even guys at the same position. And I'm always looking for that. Because when you can cheer for other guys at your position, you can't do anything without being able to do that. But then the other thing is Coach Rule said it. He told us that in the presser. He said, kind of, I need a little bit more. The kids get it. They kind of know the older guys have taken the lead. He goes, the coaching staff is kind of where we're at. Like, we need to get more familiar as well. So I think as they practice, that will work itself out based on what you just said.
Yeah, and when I'm talking about Phil Snow, like that's a guy that I think he's still figuring it out too. But I mean, it was good to see him bouncing around. Like I said, I saw him working with the DBs individually for a while, and then there was a point where he's just like right on, and I've got a picture of it. He's just like right on Rob Dvorak's shoulder, like Dvorak's like barking through drills, and Phil Snow is right there, like just like right behind him, watching the drills, passing along comments, like. I think yeah, that staff is kind of figuring itself out. We've talked about this earlier when these hires were made, but it is really starting to feel like Dana Holgerson's the head coach of the offense and Phil Snow's essentially the head coach of the defense, with John Butler being the true defensive coordinator. And those guys just kind of oversee everything while they trust their assistant coaches to kind of work through the individual drills and work through kind of the minute details while they oversee the bigger picture stuff.
Tim, is that a model you've seen kind of work before? It seems like sort of a little bit of a departure from even I know we use the term CEO head coach a lot. It seems like even a little bit more of a departure from that into having almost like you said, head coach of one side of the ball, head coach of another side of the ball, and then sort of lieutenants below that. Is that a trend you've seen, or is that just new here?
Nebraska kind of feels like not necessarily on the forefront of it, but they're among the programs at the front of this. I mean, Ohio State got the ball rolling, hiring Chip Kelly to be offensive coordinator. UCF this offseason with Gus Malzahn, but that's not like those are like experienced head coaches taking a step down to do it, and that's one example of it. But you look at Oregon. You know, Dan Lanning is the CEO of Oregon. And then Will Stein is his entrusted head coach of the offense. And on the flip side, Tosh Lupoi is the head coach of the defense. Penn State, similar thing. Andy Kotelnicki, he's the guy on offense. James Franklin is the CEO now. He's taken that step up. I think this is just how you program build in this day and age. And with these unlimited coaching staffs, with everything that's on the plate of the head coach and what's growing on the plate of all these assistant coaches as well, the duties have to be shared, and I think the I guess the hierarchy has to change a little bit too. So I think Nebraska's somewhat on the forefront, just in the case that they're one of the few programs that has like a true veteran or experienced head coach leading the offense now. And on the flip side, on the defense, you've got a long tenured defensive backs coach and a long tenured former NFL coach essentially leading your defense, to pair with a guy like Phil Snow that's been doing this defensive coordinator stuff for a long time, but is no longer defensive coordinator by title.
How about the recruits they have on campus? You know, just making sure that those guys are getting a touch. It's not often. I mean, midweek, right? You get a top flight quarterback. You got some fellas on campus. I know Rankin was in town where they're still trying to maximize those spring practices for a recruiting standpoint as well.
Yeah, and with we thought Trey Taylor out there, 2027 quarterback, number 4 quarterback in the country per Rivals.
Long.
He was out there just watching, just right behind the quarterbacks, keeping on close eye. We saw a couple coaches walk up to him, make some comments, just trade some things, and for these guys, it's an important evaluation period for Nasir Rankin, Trey Taylor, Ryan Murray, the 3-star center out of Miami South Ridge, was also in town yesterday. Torrey Pittman, elite safety out of Omaha Central, was also in town. For those guys, I mean, these getting to see these coaches in action, it's not necessarily about the conversations they have. They're coming to practice knowing they're going to see these coaches in action, what it looks like to be coached by them, what training at Nebraska looks like, what developing at Nebraska looks like. And this is what Nebraska wants to sell. They want to sell, hey, this is what it's going to look like for you. We develop here. Here's what it's going to look like. You're going to get your reps. You're going to get your opportunities to work. You're going to get your opportunity to shine and compete. And that's resonating with guys. And so, with Murray, like getting to see, hey, look, there's some injuries on the O line. So look at those young guys working in at center, working in a guard, working in a tackle. For a guy like Nasir Rankin, it's look at Isaiah Mosey winning, off the line of scrimmage and getting these type of reps and celebrating with Dylan Raiola as a true freshman. That's an opportunity he could get. Rankin's going to be an interesting one, just because I don't know if y'all saw, but he got an Illinois basketball offer in addition to an Illinois football offer this week. He's a true two-sport star, but he's 6'1". I don't know how many schools are actually going to offer him the opportunity to play in both sports, but the fact that Illinois did it definitely makes you turn and look. And also, for me, it's like, oh man, what type of power does Brett Bielema have? Because as you all know, with the two-sport stuff, it's usually one coach calling another coach and being like, hey man, as a favor, this kid wants to play basketball. This kid wants to run track. Can we just give him an opportunity to do that? For Bielema to go to Brad Underwood and say like, hey, this kid wants to play basketball, Underwood to give him the green light. I mean, that says a lot about kind of Bielema's power on that Illinois campus right now.
Tim, as we kind of go throughout the spring, I know in years past that spring game has sort of been the culmination of the recruiting part of this cycle. How do you expect that to play out a little bit differently, or do you expect it to play out differently with the kind of change in the process?
Yeah, I mean, like we're talking about spring game and talking to guys about when they plan to visit. Nebraska's going to have some visitors in town, but it's not going to be like a massive visit weekend like spring games in the past have been. I think they're staggering them and kind of layering them out throughout spring. This weekend's a pretty big weekend. They've got Titan Davis on campus, top defensive end target. Valdon Sone, top defensive tackle target on campus. A couple of top 2027 targets in town as well. Next weekend's another big weekend for the staff. And so they're kind of layering it and staggering it through April, which we'll have to see if it benefits Nebraska, because, if you zoom out and think about it, it gives the staff more one-on-one time with each of these guys and allows them to kind of personalize each of these visits. But at the same time, you do lose that spring game atmosphere. You do lose the opportunity to showcase the fan base a little bit, and you lose just like spring game used to be like hey, you spend the whole weekend in Lincoln, you get to see what a game day is like, and it led to a bunch of commitments. And so I'm curious to see what it looks like this year, because it's going to be a lot more practice focused. It's going to be a lot more development and X's and O's focused than the like vibes, I guess, of recruiting.
So it's interesting because they have to be so calculated, because we heard Coach Rule talk, and I thought it was low key funny. You know, he said, unless you're a guy that doesn't care what you tell guys, we're kind of in this wait and see mode because we don't know what's going to happen on April 7th, if that, and how the landscape is pretty fluid. Can you see how it's kind of tightened up in terms of what their particular wants versus needs are as you're watching this offseason unfold from a recruiting standpoint?
Oh yeah, like I mean, I can look right now. Like we're going through this big board series right now, and like there's a bunch of names to like keep an eye on, and like I feel like I keep repeating myself of, hey, if something happens, look for this guy to rise up the board. But like really, when you're thinking about it at this point, there's like 10 to 15 true targets they're on. Which how many times can we say that in April? You know, typically that list is at least two to three times that, just in terms of you cast a wide net and you figure out the hierarchy, and then you start to whittle down through official visit season. I mean, there's like the guys that are officially visiting and scheduled to official visit this summer, those are essentially the guys for Nebraska. Plus, you add in like a Titan Davis, Valdon Sone, who I do expect to OV this summer. Add in a couple of receivers I think will end up OVing this summer as well. But overall, it's like, yeah, there's like a small time, like it's a smaller group of high school recruits they're focused on, just because from their standpoint, they don't know how many numbers they're going to have, and they don't know how much NIL and how much they're going to be able to just divest and invest in these guys. Because you got, like, for example, a recruitment like Ryan Mosley. Nebraska just made that top 5. They're battling top SEC programs like Georgia, Texas A&M, South Carolina, so on and so forth. You need to have your NIL ducks in a row to win that recruitment. And right now, I just don't know if Nebraska is like ready and willing to spend that type of money, because they don't know how they're going to be able to allocate it for the summer. That's just something that's going to have to get figured out here in the next few weeks and months. And hopefully April 7th gives a little more clarity and allows, I think after April 7th, if there's some clarity, I think you're going to see Nebraska like start to focus in more on who they want. And I think you're going to start to see guys come off the board too. Like we're here in the end of March, and they've got 3 commits, and I'd say honestly 2, just because I Devion is a situation right now that's something to monitor. But it's just kind of it's weird right now. They've only got 3 commits. One's a legacy. One's CJ Bronaugh, who's still evaluating other things. The class is off to a pretty slow start right now, and it's you look around college football, there's a reason for that.
I thought it was interesting with the taking visits and this, that, and the other, with Coach Rule's comments about recruiting, and then to see that Brumbaugh has multiple visits set up. I was like, I wonder if that's coincidence or no.
Yeah, and that's just a tough one, because Nebraska did all the right things, evaluated him early, offered him early, got him to commit before he was really ranked. And then once tape got out, once film got out, once he ran those track times and then won Under Armour MVP or won MVP at Under Armour Orlando, that it just started to kind of blow up for him. And so now he's got the who's who of college football in that mix, and Nebraska's got to battle, Tony White and those guys to keep him committed.
That's our guy, Tim Verghese, Inside Nebraska. Tim, great stuff as always. We look forward to talking to you next week.
Thanks, TV.
Yes, sir. Talk soon. Appreciate y'all.